Hey everyone, it's Thursday. You're watching CBC News BC. I'm Beneat Brach. We're here in the Vancouver newsroom, and here's what's happening this afternoon. Well, Premier David Eby just shuffled up his cabinet. It's something that the government is describing as a strategic shift to centre jobs, the economy, and the needs of British Columbians in their communities. Here are some of those changes that were announced today. So Garry Begg has been ousted as BC's Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General. He will be replaced by Nina Krieger, who's the MLA for Victoria Swan Lake. Then Ravi Kahlon, who was BC's housing minister for some time, is now the Minister of Jobs and Economic Growth. Then Christine Boyle, who will now be the Minister of Housing.
The world has changed since we formed government. The threats from the president have not only escalated, but they have started to materialize in economic impacts right across the country, including in British Columbia. We need to ensure that we have the skills and the ministers in the right places to meet this moment, to ensure that British Columbians' jobs are protected, to grow our economy, and ensure we're meeting this moment.
So with this shuffle, there are 2 new cabinet ministers and 14 members who have served at least a full term in cabinet. And we also have more details that are emerging about the suspect in Tuesday's incident at Vancouver International Airport. So it was around 1 p.m. on Tuesday. A Cessna 172 was allegedly stolen from Victoria and flown to Vancouver, where it landed on YVR's tarmac before the pilot was arrested. So we know that 39-year-old Shahir Sazim faces one charge of hijacking. He appeared in court in Richmond yesterday and was ordered to remain in custody for an assessment. Colin Williamson, the president of the Victoria Flying Club, said he presented himself as a customer and said that he wasn't actually a member of the flying club. The incident resulted in the airspace being closed, flights being diverted and grounded, and NORAD F-15 fighters being deployed. And in North Vancouver, a man has been charged with impersonating a police officer. This comes after an incident in March. That's where police had reports that a Ford F-150 driver, as you can see, there's a vehicle, had identified himself as an RCMP officer and pulled over a Tesla driver using lights that resemble police emergency lights. Wayne Church has now been charged with impersonating a peace officer and using equipment likely to cause the public to believe that he's a peace officer. Health officials are warning people not to swim at 3 Metro Vancouver beaches because of high E. coli levels that are not suitable for it. Swimming advisories were issued yesterday for Sunset Beach and Third Beach in Vancouver, as well as Dunderave Beach in West Vancouver. We asked some Vancouverites about whether they typically go swimming at Sunset Beach.
If there's not E. coli, yeah, I would.
It's better in the early spring and later in the summer when there's not so many boats out.
We mainly go to the English Bay one because we live closer.
My friends live right here, so we swim here all the time.
Okay.
Yeah.
How about the summer? Have you swum in recently?
Yeah, I have. Yeah, it's pretty good. Some days it's really warm.
Health officials say swallowing water with high E. coli levels can lead to infections, vomiting, or diarrhea. That's what we have for you so far. I'm Beneat Brach. Stay with us. BC Today is coming up next.
Good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. A midsummer cabinet shuffle because the Premier says the world has changed since the election. Ravi Kahlon moves out of housing and municipal affairs to jobs and economic growth. Former Vancouver councillor Christine Boyle takes his place. We'll talk about who's out of cabinet as well, who's in, and more on that and what the context is with political correspondent Rob Shaw. And we're asking you, what is your favorite summer road trip in BC? That's coming up after 12:30. I'm Michelle Elliott. Welcome to BC Today. Thanks for joining us on CBC Radio 1, CBC Television. We're streaming live as well on YouTube. Just search for CBC British Columbia. We're also on CBC Gem, and we're live on TikTok. Well, the BC Cabinet Shuffle saw some moves, new faces, and demotions. BC Premier David Eby says it is a strategic shift with a focus on jobs and the economy. This is in light of tariffs and the trade war with the United States as BC takes on challenges when it comes to growing the economy. Eby says the new people stepping up will bring new perspectives to the table. Experienced ministers will be tasked with moving projects forward, as well as economic prosperity.
Challenges we face, the skills that our team has, are why I've made the decision to strategically match members of our caucus with different roles to ensure that we're meeting the moment for British Columbians, to protect jobs and the economy, to ensure that we are fulfilling our promise and our potential, that we are growing a more resilient economy and strengthening the services that so many families depend on right across our province. These changes will help our government meet the moment for British Columbians, which is what they expect us to do, and rightly so. We have new faces who are stepping up to take on important roles in our cabinet. We have experienced ministers who have served for many years, who are continuing to serve, but in different roles. The task that they have is to drive forward our long-term prosperity, and it is not a minor one. Serving in cabinet is a privilege and an enormous responsibility. And each of the ministers I'm appointing today, I have complete confidence that you are all up to the task ahead.
Some more notable changes to cabinet. Garry Begg is out as Public Safety Minister and Solicitor General. And as I mentioned, Ravi Kahlon has moved from housing and will take over as Minister responsible for jobs. Former Vancouver City Councillor Christine Boyle will take over that portfolio. Now for the context, the cabinet shuffle is taking place amid the U.S. trade war and impending 35% tariffs that Donald Trump has threatened will come on August 1st. There's also the First Nations opposition to BC and federal legislation to fast-tracking big projects amid that trade war. Here in BC, the province has faced questions around a decision to stop funding treatment for a 9-year-old girl's rare disease, and that's been making news over the last few weeks. We'll talk about all of that with political correspondent Rob Shaw, and we are asking you, are you confident in this cabinet shuffle from David Eby? And what do you think of his government's performance? How do you rate it so far? You can call us 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone or email bctoday@cbc.ca. And of course, you can comment on our TikTok Live. And joining me now from Victoria is Rob Shaw, who's a political correspondent for CHEK News and also does a lot of CBC radio hits as well. Hello, Rob.
Hi, thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being with us. And remind me, it's July, right?
It is July, but it's busy.
The election was October.
Yes. Yeah.
Just wondering why now for this cabinet shuffle?
Well, I think there's like one major important part of this shuffle, one somewhat important part, and the rest are just kind of like dragged along and sort of results of some of those changes. The big one, as you mentioned off the top, is Ravi Kahlon. And the Premier today saying he wanted him to step up and take this kind of leadership, economic development, jobs role in the wake of the continued U.S. tariff fight. And Kahlon was already sort of there. He was chairing the government's committee on a sort of cabinet committee, wartime response to the U.S., but this better aligns with him in that area. And because he's taken that on, there needed to be someone to move into the housing portfolio. Christine Boyle is a very trusted lieutenant of the Premier. He has put one of his trusted people in that file, and that then cascades through the rest of the cabinet, and you see all these sort of other changes, which kind of result from that. I think the other half part of Ravi Kahlon stepping up is that there was a feeling, especially in the business community, of dissatisfaction with Jobs Minister Diana Gibson. She's a rookie to her defense. When she was named Jobs Minister last year, this wasn't the centerpiece cabinet file. And the fact that it's become that, this massive kind of top front bench, most important cabinet file there is in some ways, is kind of a result of her sort of being moving down a little bit and sent to citizen services. So I think that's really the crux of what the Premier was trying to do here.
Interesting. You talk about Christine Boyle as someone who's kind of a trusted left-hand person, having just come from Vancouver City Council, already making that kind of impact.
Yeah, well, they're longtime friends, and they work well together. I think that for Minister Boyle, part of her challenge is going to be that the housing file had a whole bunch of changes that were underway on it. We've seen Ravi Kahlon just in the last little while try to bail out a lot of Metro Vancouver condo towers that have been suffering from the pre-sale collapse. There's tons of work on the way and in stream, and she's jumping into that. So that's a very busy portfolio for her, and I don't expect we're going to see a radical change in direction. A lot of housing policies are led by the Premier anyway. If you want to go back and look at Minister Boyle's comments that some might think are less than favorable about the development industry in Vancouver City Council, I wouldn't waste your time. Housing is directed by the Premier through the Minister, so she'll be contradicting her past comments for sure on this file based on what the province wants to do.
So if you're comparing who is that front bench now with who was appointed back after the election in October, do you think that this is a cabinet that is well suited, that is prepared to meet these new challenges, as the Premier frames it, that have arisen since the election?
Well, this is a Premier who's stuck dealing with the loss of a lot of veteran cabinet ministers in the last election, and he's doing the best he can. He used the line today that he has a deep bench that produced more than a few chuckles, because he's essentially deployed his entire bench here. Everyone has a job or some fancy title in the 47-person NDP caucus. So I don't think he has a lot of bench strength. I think this cabinet reflects some of that. And the other front bench change would be the Solicitor General. That's really the only sort of change since the election. Garry Begg, former RCMP officer from Surrey, demoted down to a parliamentary secretary role on Surrey. And Nina Krieger brought in a first-time MLA from Victoria. The Premier explaining that today, saying she ran Western Canada's largest Holocaust museum. She is outspoken in her work against racism, against gendered violence. He says that's a sort of defining problem in public safety right now, intimate partner violence. He wants that kind of move into that file. The questions to her, though, were there's a lot of public frustration on crime, on public disorder, on vandalism, on street disorder. She talked today about getting up to speed on her file. I'm not sure she's going to find from stakeholders a lot of appetite to brief another minister to reinvent the wheel years into a public safety crisis and street disorder crisis. So she's going to have to get up to speed fast and move quickly. That's a very challenging portfolio. No one's going to be like, hey, Minister, come and let me re-explain to you the problems that we have been hounding government on for years, and that's going to be a real challenge for her.
My guest, Rob Shaw, political correspondent with CHEK News, and we're taking your calls on the midsummer cabinet shuffle that's just taking place this morning. Some of the big moves: Ravi Kahlon moving from housing minister and municipal affairs minister to minister responsible for jobs and economic growth. Former Vancouver City Councillor Christine Boyle will take on housing and municipal affairs. And as we heard as well, Garry Begg, Surrey MLA, now out of cabinet and is replaced now out as public safety minister and solicitor general as well, and being replaced by Nina Krieger, who is from Vancouver Island. And Spencer Chandra-Herbert as well, moving to Minister of Indigenous Relations and Reconciliation. So lots to talk about there, but also in terms of how you think the NDP government is doing. We'd love to hear from you on that. Are you confident in this change when it comes to cabinet ministers, and are you confident right now in the NDP government? 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can also hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And we have an email here from Sammy who writes, the government has fallen below any positive level since Horgan left. And Sammy shared a message that they just wrote to Christine Boyle. And the very first thing you need to do, Sammy writes, is to investigate in this job why BC Housing is telling people living in not-for-profit societies they must talk to the BC Nonprofit Housing Association to speak about anything to do with your housing. And not-for-profit tenants are in a bucket with no holes to get help. Learn, complain, or simply talk to their representative, and please hurry. Okay, one of the many things that Christine Boyle may have to deal with there in her new portfolio. Again, our number is 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can also hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And Rob, another topic that came up today and has been coming up over the last couple of weeks is this issue around a 9-year-old girl and the funding of her medication for her rare disease. And Josie Osborne, as Minister of Health, has been responding to a lot of questions after this decision not to renew coverage for this medication for Charlie Pollock. And Premier Eby was asked about this morning. Here's one of his responses.
Politicians should not be the one making decisions about medical care in this province. I believe that very strongly as a fundamental principle. We have a very challenging situation here where we have a disagreement among experts. We received a letter this morning from slightly more than a dozen experts in Batten disease from the United States who wrote to the minister and I expressing that their perspective on this medication is that it would continue to provide benefit for patients, including for Charlie, that are at the stage that she's at. It's a significant letter. I take it seriously. I know the minister does as well. She's taking it to the committee, and she'll have more to say about it tomorrow.
First of all, Rob, can you tell us what kind of pressure the government has been facing on this?
Well, for months now, experts of various stripes have been saying that the government made the wrong decision here. This is a young girl who has a terminal illness, Batten disease. She's been for 6 years on this drug called Brineura that helps to reduce seizures. The government says suddenly that her criteria doesn't benefit from this drug anymore and is discontinuing her. She's the first person in Canada to be discontinued under this criteria, the only person in BC with this disease. And the question to the government since the beginning is, are you sure? And now what has essentially happened over a period of months, including this letter today, last night from doctors from across the US, is that mostly the entire kind of world scientific community has come out, including the person who wrote the clinical scale that government is using to discontinue the criteria, and said, actually, BC, you're wrong. You've made the wrong decision. You don't have the expertise in this. There's only one person in the province with this. Listen to us instead. And the government has been very, very stubbornly unwilling to do that. And I think the Premier crafted himself an off-ramp today for a file that is enormously unpopular within the entire, within the NDP base, within his caucus, within the public. He would be wise to take it tomorrow and restore. We're not talking about, in this case, giving someone untested medication in a world of robust scientific evidence. There's very little clinical evidence in this ultra rare disease. There's only 20 people in Canada with this, and the science is unsettled. And that's what has kind of caught the government here, is that if you can't reach a kind of scientific consensus, is it worth cutting a little girl off for her medicine a couple years before she's expected to pass away from a terminal disease? And I don't think the government did the correct math on that, and they look like they might be moving on it today.
From what his last comment there was, the minister is taking this letter from the 13 experts to the committee that made the decision, and will have more to say about it tomorrow. So wondering what we might expect tomorrow then.
Well, look, here's what's going to happen tomorrow. we're going to have a disagreement on the science, right? Like we have a BC expert committee that has multiple times now, in the face of immense public pressure, said, no, discontinue the girls' drugs. Immense public pressure. And now a scientific community from across the globe, from Germany and all of the Americans' major hospitals, saying you're wrong. So the question here is not about politics versus science, as the government wants to frame it, that politicians are helpless in the world of the scientific review. It's what you do as leaders and elected officials in government when the science isn't settled, and how compassionate you are when the question is open. And that'll be the question we have tomorrow.
Does it put them, in that difficult position? Because as heartbreaking as this case is, does it set a precedent for politicians and public pressure being able to force a committee that is made up of scientists that does look at the science to reverse its decision?
Yeah, well, I think you got to apply a great deal of common sense to this, right? If this was someone getting a special expensive drug for Alzheimer's, when there are thousands of Alzheimer's patients, the drug isn't proven, and it's a one-time expensive deal, you would look at it and go, why are politicians involved? This is the only patient in BC. It's an ultra-rare disease. She's been funded for 6 years. The clinical criteria they're using, the author of it says it's not justifiable in this case. The expert world committees of people say it's not justifiable. I think at that point, you sort of have to apply a kind of political judgment. There is recommendations to follow in most cases, but this is so rare that at some point someone's going to have to make a decision. And I think that's where we sort of got ourselves to.
Let's take some more calls. That will be something we'll watch for tomorrow then. Absolutely. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca, and our TikTok live is up, so you can certainly comment there. B for Sun actually posted on TikTok, did they get rid of the Minister of Health? So I think getting to the discussion we just had there, Josie Osborne is staying as Health Minister for BC. Thanks for that question. And the post goes on to say she needs to resign. So that is, again, part of the same story. And we will watch to see what we hear from Health Minister Josie Osborne tomorrow on that file. Right now, Carol is on the line in Vancouver. And Carol, you want to talk about housing?
Yes, I do. I noticed that Christine Boyle has taken on the housing file. I hope things change. I don't expect they will. I have a personal story, but it's my own. It's a disgrace. I believe that the nonprofits in this city continue to carry on the way they do. People making very large salaries, they're fiefdoms, and they do not support the people that are being housed. So I'm curious to know how this is all going to turn out. Hopefully I'll be able to talk to Christine Boyle at some point and
what do you think
and expand on it. But I'm just
Carol,
I'm very cynical.
Yeah, you're talking about supportive housing then, I imagine. So what do you think needs to be done when it comes to supportive housing that nonprofits are not able to do?
Well, they should be doing it. They're just not.
Yeah, that they're not fulfilling. What do you think is needed?
No. Total reformation. Property managers demoted to programs managers. There are no programs, certainly what I've seen, and I won't get into the experience. But they're a failure. They're cronyism, nepotism, friends of friends. It runs rampant throughout those organizations. The top people get six figures to do nothing. You can't get them on the phone. They don't answer questions. Tenants are upset, but they won't speak out because they'll lose their housing. I know one woman who wanted to see Nikki Sharma, and she was told by one of the acolytes that if she did so, she'd be looking for market housing. They don't treat the tenants very well.
And yourself, what makes this such an important issue for you personally?
Just that I've seen so much of it. It's disgraceful. Okay. I see people collecting salaries in these organizations, phony titles, recreation director, programs manager, and they do as little as possible.
Okay. Carol,
fiefdoms,
thank you very much for the call. Of course, we don't have any of the nonprofits on the line to respond to that, but that may be something that Christine Boyle will have to face when it comes to the role of nonprofits in implementing social housing and supportive housing. Rob, what do you think of that task in front of her?
Well, it's an enormous task. I don't think we're going to see any immediate radical changes. The government is on a very clear path on housing, comes straight from the premier, comes straight from the election platform, comes straight from his leadership platform. They made a bunch of changes on it. We're not going to see a sudden deviation into a different world, but I do think Christine Boyle is certainly more connected to some of that downtown Vancouver, Metro Vancouver kind of supportive housing files, and she'd have a slightly better read on it, I think, than Ravi Kahlon from Delta, but we'll see.
And what about, I suppose, the ability to build bridges with municipalities, in light of some of the policies that the province has put in place or imposed on municipalities when it comes to housing?
Well, they're putting municipal affairs continued sort of linkage with housing because the two go hand in hand. The ability to work with councils, the ability in some cases to push councils around on housing and intervene and force them to do certain things, zoning and official community plans and housing task forces. So that linkage there gives her the sort of broad ability to be talking to municipalities, but then using housing as a carrot and a stick to achieve some of government's goals.
On housing, people do care about that. Joanne Wright says the performance of the NDP is probably the biggest reason for shuffling the cabinet. It would be interesting to see a poll of efficiency and performance of government outside of trade. And Joanne goes on to write about a personal experience when it comes to the property transfer tax. Okay, thank you so much for that, Joanne. And thanks for your emails to BC Today at cbc.ca. Rob, a lot to talk about, and we'll watch for that story around the medication decision tomorrow. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me on.
That's Rob Shaw, political correspondent for CHEK News. It is now 12:28. You're with BC Today. Now let's head to Gatineau, Quebec, where the First Nations Summit is taking place and discussions are happening about Bill C-5. And we talked about this yesterday and asked how the law that was meant to fast-track infrastructure projects could tie in with Indigenous rights to self-determination. Now, in his opening address today, Prime Minister Mark Carney says he's there to listen. Cindy Woodhouse-Nepinak is the national chief of the Assembly of First Nations, and she is calling for better infrastructure for Indigenous peoples.
We also remind, of course, the Government of Canada today to listen more and speak less. I think First Nations have been waiting a long time to speak and get their messages out, so we need to do that. Also follow through on promises to close the First Nations infrastructure gap. Look, I think he's got to come up with some commitments, firm commitments, hopefully by the end of this day and in the weeks ahead, and to make sure that there's no big budget cuts. We didn't talk about the budget. I know that there's budget cuts being proposed across this country, but I know that previous prime ministers, knowing how tight budgets are for First Nations already and how huge the gaps are, they need to exclude First Nations people from those budget cuts, along with things like healthcare, things that are important to all Canadians, and closing that gap between all people.
It is 12:30 now. You're with BC Today. I'm Michelle Elliott, and thanks so much for joining us. Very good to be with you this afternoon. It is warm out there, so I hope you're able to stay cool. You're joining us live on CBC Radio 1, CBC Television, live streaming as well on YouTube at CBC British Columbia, as well as the CBC News app and on TikTok. Thanks for joining us there. And coming up in our next half hour, we're going to talk about taking a road trip. Yeah, is there one that's your favorite when it comes to traveling around BC? We'd love to hear from you. And we also have a perfect summer road trip BC Today prize pack to give away. So there's something to get you calling in. That is all coming up after this CBC News update. And here's Rob Zimmerman.
Good afternoon. Premier David Eby has made some changes to his cabinet, putting key ministers in areas to improve the economy. Former Housing Minister Ravi Kahlon will take the jobs portfolio from Diana Gibson, who will move into the Citizen Services role. Other changes include replacing Garry Begg with Nina Krieger as Solicitor General. Richmond RCMP are making a public appeal to try to recover a vintage violin that fell out of a person's trunk onto the street. It happened just before 12:30 yesterday at Francis and Gilbert. Police say the violin is a 1920 Carlo Macelli and was inside a black rectangular hard case with red lining. Witnesses reported seeing a driver of a blue pickup pick it up. And signs have gone up at some popular beaches here in Metro Vancouver, indicating the water is currently unsafe for swimming. Tests have shown elevated E. coli at Sunset, 3rd, and Dunderave beaches. And now the forecast on the north coast. A mix of sun and cloud this afternoon with a high of 19. Highs in the mid-20s with some sun and cloud in the piece. In the central interior, including Prince George, increasing cloudiness with a high of 25. Highs getting up to 31 with some sunshine in the West Kootenay, a chance of thunderstorms in the East Kootenay. In the southern interior, including Kelowna, a mix of sun and cloud with highs close to 30. And for Metro Vancouver, Greater Victoria, and the Fraser Valley, sunny this afternoon with highs reaching 30 inland. That's your CBC News update from Vancouver.
Thank you, Rob. We're talking road trips in our next half hour. Is there one that stands out for you?
Well, there was the one that all 8 people in my family went in a station wagon down to Anaheim. But
wow.
that was 50 years ago.
I was going to say, this is very 80s. Station wagon.
80s?
Yeah.
That was 70s. Yeah.
I was trying to help you out.
No, that was 70s.
Yeah,
I went up to the Okanagan this past weekend, so that was lovely.
Oh, how nice.
Kelowna and Vernon, yeah.
Yeah, I love a road trip to Kelowna and Vernon. And I actually enjoy the Highway 3 route as well. It takes longer and windier. But
yeah, no,
so
I just like to get there fast. But yeah.
Get me there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Coquihalla it is.
Sure.
Rob, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, station wagon. The memories. It's Rob Zimmerman in the CBC Vancouver newsroom. Welcome back. This is BC Today. And coming up on CBC Radio 1 in Metro Vancouver, here's what's On the Coast has in store.
Michelle, hi there. It's Gloria Makarenko here. And I just wanted to flag a few things we've got lined up for On the Coast later this afternoon. In terms of summer entertainment, Theatre Under the Stars has some really fun shows this season. So we are going to meet some of the team behind the production Legally Blonde. It's Thursday, so our guide to personal finance, Mark Ting, will be here. He'll join us with some advice for people who want to try investing. Also, our Soapbox Social panel, Mo, Amir, and Kyla Lee will be back to weigh in on some of the top political stories of the week as well. So join us between 3 and 6 for On the Coast.
Well, it is road trip season. It's the summer after all. And so whether you're driving to sea to sky and looking over the water there, Kootenay Pass through the Selkirks, or maybe even a train trip, what is your favorite road trip to take in BC? And what is your approach? What's your strategy? How long is too long? What do you bring? And what do you do to while away the hours? Love to hear from you. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. You can also email bctoday@cbc.ca or just comment on TikTok if you're watching us there as well. For anyone who calls in, we do have a BC Today summer prize pack to give away to a caller. And so this includes a lovely BC Today beach blanket and a BC Today water bottle to take on your next trip. Joining me now is Riana Ang-Canning, who's a travel blogger, and her page is called A Teaspoon of adventure. And Riana is based in Vancouver, but joins me from Toronto today because she is on a trip. Hi, Riana. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, I know you really fulfill the title of traveler, right? Like, you are originally from Burnaby and back in BC after many, many stops elsewhere around the world.
Yes, correct.
What brought you to traveling?
Good question. Yeah, I was born in Burnaby, and then my family moved to Toronto. So I think already, at 9 months, I had kind of done that bi-coastal trip. So it was kind of early in my blood. And then at 19, like many 19-year-olds, I was lost and didn't know what to do. And a good flight deal popped up, and I said, "Oh, I can go to Europe for the summer. That sounds fun." So off I went, and then just kind of kept every opportunity that came up, a job in Tokyo, an internship in Eswatini, just sort of studying abroad in Amsterdam. I've sort of just jumped on every opportunity I could until it kind of became my job.
Yeah, exactly. And in BC, what do you see as your own favorite destinations here?
So we just got back actually from my husband's family. They have a property up on the Sunshine Coast in a little town called Pender Harbor. So we spend every Canada Day long weekend there, and it's just like the most, scenic, beautiful place. Oh. And the scenery is enough to get you there. But then, you've got the family, you've got the campfire, you've got they play horseshoes, the hiking, the boats, the fishing. Just, it's so nice. It's my favorite getaway. We do it every year.
Yes, that is a really, really great choice. We were just talking to Rob Zimmerman about his recent trip to Kelowna and a road trip there. And of course, you could take the very speedy route, Highway 5. Yeah. I've rerouted over to Highway 3, and I know my kids at the end of it did not enjoy just how windy it was.
Fair.
But
yes.
It is so beautiful and scenic, and you see so much more. And so I'm wondering, how much of a road trip is about the destination and how much of it is about the road?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I think for me, a road trip is the very definition of it's about the journey, not the destination. Yeah. I think the fun of a road trip is those kind of unexpected stops, like, there's a sign for fresh cherries, let's pull off and grab some of those, or there's a cool lookout, or the dog has to pee, pull over and you find an ice cream stand or something like that. Like, I think that's kind of the joy of a road trip when you have the time. But if you only have 2 days and you kind of want to get there, that's again, the nice thing about a road trip is you do have that flexibility. You can, gun it and get there as fast as possible, or you can take your time and enjoy the scenery and make a lot of stops.
If you have more than a weekend like Rob did. Yeah, you're right. I remember stopping over from a trip to Merritt and just getting some honey along the side of the road. Absolutely. Let's take some calls asking you for your favorite BC road trips. Our number is 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733, or just hit pound 690 on your cell phone. We have a BC Today summer prize pack to give away as well. Cole is joining us from Kelowna. Hi, Cole.
Hello.
Summer destination.
I'm here to talk about the best possible Vancouver Island road trip. But
Vancouver Island, okay.
Yes, but you did talk about a Kelowna trip, so I just want to say you can also take Highway 7 or 8 through the Nicola Valley, connect to Highway 1, go down Hell's Gate. That's that's a great road trip. The Vancouver Island one, so you can either start it in Parksville or start it in Victoria. I'm going to start in Victoria. So you go up to Malahat, you can do the Malahat Skywalk if you want to. Then when you get to Duncan, rather than just go on the highway towards Parksville, you cut down to Cowichan Bay. You can get a nice lunch at the Cow Bay Cafe. It's the fall. You've got sea lions out on the dock in Cowichan Bay.
Yeah.
You keep driving along the water to Maple Bay, where you can stop and go check out the Hand of Man Museum, where they've got all kinds of stuff, including a 37-foot-long cast of a T-Rex. Excellent. You keep going all the way through Chemainus. You can check out the murals, go through Saltaire. You're going to have to turn on the highway at Ladysmith. When you go through Ladysmith, take a little slow drive down the First Avenue there. Stop at the Old Town Bakery for your cinnamon buns and a coffee. You keep going through Nanaimo, all the way through to Parksville, and then you take a leisurely stroll down Rathtrevor Beach, and you can even go on the Old Island Highway all the way up past Qualicum, and you can kind of go as far as Campbell River.
You sure can.
To. Yeah, so there's tons of things to check out on all these scenic routes. You're right down by the water. And if you decide that you want to spin back and go to Victoria for whatever reason, you can hit the Goats on the Roof Market in Coombs. You can do everything. You kind of can't go wrong with road trips on Vancouver Island. And even if you head up north towards Port McNeil, Sayward area, you get some real beautiful stuff. So if you're on Vancouver Island and you have a car, go for a rip. Get out of Victoria. There's a whole bunch of island to see.
Oh my gosh, you said it. You said it, Cole. You're absolutely right. And I love the tour you just took us on.
Good.
That was fantastic. My favorite part is seeing the goats on the roof for sure. Cole, thank you so much. That was amazing. And I hope you have a good road trip back, I guess, from Kelowna, and you're heading back to Vancouver. Is that right?
I'll be doing one today. I'm taking the stinky cocoa hollow.
Boring. No, just joking. Cole, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I'm going to keep that in mind for my next time over on the island, okay? That was great. That's Cole in Kelowna. Do you have a favorite spot on the island?
Yeah, actually, you know what? As Cole was speaking, my husband and I did a very similar road trip last fall. So I went to that Old Town Bakery. I saw the murals in Chemainus.
Amazing.
Yep, I did it. I missed a few of his recommendations though. So I've got to go back. But we drove down to Tofino and Ucluelet. Can't go wrong with, the beaches and the rainforest and the food, all the little shops. That's always a favorite.
Yeah, Rathtrevor Beach. He had me at that as well. Love Rathtrevor Beach. Okay, and let's take another call now. We are actually, speaking of Tofino and Ucluelet, Dale is calling us from Vancouver. Hi, Dale.
Hello, hi. I can't compete with Cole there, but we did a road trip to Tofino and Ucluelet.
Yeah.
2 years ago, it was right up to Port Hardy, and this year, August, it's going to be Revelstoke and Smithers. So a bit of a staying away from the ferries. But yeah, no, I do love the coast. Driving it, but. With the kids, you got to watch the speed limits. But if the kids went with me, I'll be pushing it a little bit there. So,
oh boy,
that's my
Let's keep it safe, Dale. But you're going to Revelstoke and then Smithers.
We're gonna go to Revelstoke. I want to try out the pipe. What we did last year, but nobody wanted to go. So this year I'm saying, you know what? It's either all or nothing. So I'm in. I don't care about the family. And, they did the one up in Cyprus, but I'm like, no, I want to get away from on the lower mainland, have a trip, do some stargazing, maybe check out the tour at the dam that they have there. And, then from there, if I have time, then maybe Smithers after that. So,
wow.
That's open plan. So we'll see how it goes.
You know what? That is so great to have an open plan, a free itinerary, and just keep it loose. Oh, make some time for stargazing, Dale. I love that. Thank you so much. You did really well. I think
Thank you. Thanks for taking my call. Have a great day.
You too. You gave Cole some competition there, I think. Both are really great calls. What do you make? Okay, so first of all, his itinerary there, which I love, but also, that idea of just keeping it nice and loose, just to, take it as it comes.
I feel like that's the ethos for a road trip, right? See what comes. I like that he has a desire, like, okay, I want to get to this place, I want to do this thing, leave the lower mainland, we did the coast guard,
not do the ferries.
Which fair if you want to take a break from waiting for ferries, but then kind of leave it open if you have that flexibility, if you have the extra time, if you don't mind not booking all of your campsites or your hotels ahead of time. I love that. Just sort of, hey, we'll see where the day takes us. A couple more days here, detour over there. That's awesome.
Now, Dale said he was going in August. Randy writes us about a planned trip for the first week of October at the end of the harvest season. And Randy writes, the Carameus Coston area, Canada's best for organic growing, no GMO seeds allowed. I usually arrive mid-afternoon, and I shop 4 to 6 veggie stands to check out the inventory. I stay overnight in a Soyuz, get up early, and go back to make my purchases. Oh, wow. So he does a little recon and then goes back. The prized vegetables are the peppers. Over 25 types are grown, and the prices are very low. And when I get home, I spend a couple of days preparing veg combinations for freezing, and all winter long, I can enjoy the bounty, along with fresh onions and potatoes.
Yum.
That's the best kind of souvenir.
I love it. That's a road trip with a theme, and food is a perfect theme. That's amazing. That sounds like such a good trip.
That sounds like, and I love that he goes at the end of harvest season as well. That reminds me of, when I've gone, and pick, cherries and peaches and go home and you just think, oh my goodness, these are the best that I can get. Thank you for that email, Randy. bctoday@cbc.ca is our email address. And Randy writes about Highway 3 as well, that it's scenic, interesting, and informative. Fruit stands selling samosas, pakora, and chai. Streams galore. Randy, thanks so much for that as well. Let's take some more calls. 1-800-825-5950. 604-669-3733. You can hit pound 690 on your cell phone. And as well, you can comment online on TikTok as we are live on TikTok. Okay, no dancing though. I don't do any TikTok dances for you. Sorry.
Me neither.
We'll work on that. Vlada is joining from Victoria. Hi, Vlada.
Hi there.
Hi, thanks for calling in. What's your favorite summer road trip?
Well, I was going to say Vancouver Island as well. I'm a recent move to Vancouver Island, and I'm getting my sister and her family to come over and join me for a road trip from Victoria up to Errington, Coombs, and then across to Tofino, sort of as a ploy to get them maybe to move or come more frequently. Nice. I don't know. But we have a lot of fun stops planned, and Cathedral Grove, just things that BC has to offer you can't see anywhere else.
Oh my goodness, Cathedral Grove. I think that will do the trick, Vlada. I think that will convince them.
That's such a great idea to convince someone to move or to visit more often by just showing them all the best stops in the area. Brilliant.
What a wonderful itinerary you have as well. What's it been like moving over to Victoria for you? Have you been taking advantage of the ability to go on these road trips?
It has been incredible, and also things are so close here. So I find, I'm from Ontario, and it's going to be an hour and a half to get anywhere. But here I find you can hop in your car, and 20 minutes you're in a beautiful lake surrounded by, old growth and amazing trees and wildlife. Deer right on your lawn. So
that's true.
You can't escape it.
I was going to say, you can't get away from it if you tried. Vlada, that's great. And when are you going with your family?
We're going in August, so it's going to be warm.
It's going to be warm. Yeah, I know. Already. Even in Victoria, right? Even on on that side of the island. Hey, thanks so much for calling, and good luck in our draw for the BC Today prize pack.
Thank you.
That's a great idea too. Love that she's using it as a way to convince her family to maybe move. And that's something. I mean, you've moved to so many different places, Riana. And so has that been part of your experience, to having traveled to one place and kind of fallen in love with it and saying, you know what, I could move here?
Totally. I actually do that too often. We'll be on a vacation on day 2. I'll turn to my husband and go, we could live here, right? We could live here. And every now and then he indulges me and we do move. But that's absolutely, I think, especially with a road trip, because it's not like you're really in the place, like you're in the car, you're stopping, you can stop at the local places, you're having the meals. So you really get that like lived in feel that you might not get if you're just doing, a quick day tour, or you fly in, you fly out kind of thing. So I think your road trips are a really good way to try to convince someone, not that they need much convincing to move over to the island, but I like that as a promotional opportunity.
Not if you're taking them to Cathedral Grove. And now I also understand you have a new baby as well, right?
Oh, yes. Yeah, little girl. She's 6 months old.
Oh, congratulations. And have you taken her on a road trip?
So she came with us to the Sunshine Coast. That was her first little road trip. She did good. And then we're in Toronto with my family for this summer. So we're going to do a couple road trips kind of out to the cottage. We've got some family in Ottawa and Montreal. So we're considering a little jaunt around those cities to visit people.
Oh, head to Perth. I was just in Ottawa as well, and took a little, as we heard from Vadya, hour-long road trip just over to a little town called Perth. It was beautiful. Okay, let's take another call here now. 1-800-825-5950, 604-669-3733 are our numbers again. And we have about 10 minutes left in this segment, so we're going to try to get to everybody here. Tanya is on the line in Kamloops. Hi, Tanya. What's your favorite BC road trip?
Hi, I'm going to vouch for actually the island myself. We did a little bit of island hopping in May and visited 4 islands. And I'm not an island person. I'm not an ocean person. But I tell you, this is like, the beauty is unbelievable. The landscape, it's just unbelievable. And seeing homes and how people live and all the rest, it's just fabulous. It's really, and we have friends that have retired to the island, and I see why.
Right. Are they trying to convince you, Tanya?
I'm not there yet. Still need to work, but I can just see it. It's absolutely beautiful. It really, really is. And every island has got its characters, of course, and there's lots. What I really was impressed with was on Denman Island and Hornby Island, there were trails beside the main road. And so we were able to run on the trails. And then it was like fabulous. When it's biker friendly, walker friendly, that is phenomenal.
That's a big part of it as well, is the ability to bike and walk to your destination. Tanya, have a great time. Enjoy the rest of your visit there, okay?
Thanks so much. Yeah, appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Jan is calling us next now in Langford. And we're still going to stay on the island, of course. Hi, Jan. Okay. If you want to call from the interior, you can too. Go ahead. Hi, Jan.
So we're going to stay on the island. Port Hardy. Somebody mentioned Port Hardy already. What they didn't mention is that the best backpacker hostel on the planet is in Port Hardy. It's called Backpackers Hostel. For $60, you get yourself a delightful hostel and wonderful locals. And then, if you're feeling adventurous, you take the BC Ferry Inside Passage, UNESCO, the greatest, best place on the planet. You go Inside Passage, you watch humpbacks, you watch otters, and you get to Prince Rupert. And now you're going to Haida Gwaii. I'm trying to get you to Haida Gwaii. But in Prince Rupert, you stay at Moby Dick Inn. It's really a hotel, but it's called Moby Dick Inn. And it's only going to cost you $150. And then, or you can stay at the campground. Local campground is fantastic. And then you take the ferry over to Skidegate on Haida Gwaii. And then you can either rent a car or a scooter. And you get up to Masset, North End, North Beach of Haida Gwaii. You can see the Alaska Panhandle. And that's probably the best place in Canada right there, Masset.
I'm sold. Put me on the road trip.
And just, if you want to know where to stay in Masset, I'll tell you exactly where to stay. It's called Hidden Valley Campground and Resort. And it's probably the best little campground you could ever be at. And there's only 20 spaces. Best firewood on the planet is right there. Okay, there you go.
Jan, thank you very much. And it is so much too about where you stay. Bye-bye. Take care. About where you stay. The hostels and the backpackers hostel, and the people that you meet when you're at these establishments. So thank you so much for that. That's a big part of it as well. Wendy at Lac La Hache. Hi, Wendy.
And I have been road tripping since probably April this year.
Whoa. Okay. Where are you? Are you in the middle of your road trip right now?
We're kind of headed home right now, but we've had numerous road trips this year, and we've been just about all over the province, from Smithers to Pigeon, through the Kootenays. This province is absolutely wonderful. You have to experience everything because it's so diverse. We've been out to Bella Coola at times. We've been north to Watson Lake in the Yukon, going up to Cassiar, down through Fort Nelson, Fort St. John. And got a big trip coming, going across Canada.
Oh, my goodness. What a special year for you.
Oh, being retired's wonderful.
I bet. Wendy, thank you very much. Traveling ever since April and now heading back. But what a great trip. And now embarking on a road trip across the country. That was awesome. We have lots of emails coming in as well. Lynette writes, our family loves road trips. All the stops at interesting places, good food, and of course, we have a playlist. Yeah, that's another one too, isn't it? Another factor in that too. Holiday, very important. Holiday Road is a strong musical choice. That's a great point. What's on your road trip playlist? Really good point there. And Adrian writes about the Grand Circle tour of coastal BC, Coquitlam to Horseshoe Bay, over to Gibson's, Powell River, then a ferry to Comox, and then Parksville, Cowichan Bay, return via Nanaimo. 4 ferries, 9 nights, 4 stayovers, 4 people, so many sunrises and sunsets, so much wildlife, eagles, whales, seals, otters, and deer, and so many new special memories. Adrian, that's lovely. I'm going to end it there with you, Riana. And yeah, it's about the memories that you make, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's awesome.
Is there a memory that stands out for you?
Oh, my favorite road trip memory would have to be, I'll try to keep it in. Well, actually, my husband and I did a road trip over to the interior, Penticton, and we got engaged on that road trip. So that'll be my favorite memory.
Oh, that's lovely. Of course.
Yeah, on Mount Munson and Penticton, that was our engagement spot. So hard to forget that.
Oh my, have you been back since?
No, we wanted to go back with our daughter. We just got a bit too busy, but that's it's on the bucket list. There's just so many good spots in BC. It's hard to go back.
That is absolutely an unforgettable memory. We do have an email from Crystal who writes, I was born in Perth near Ottawa, and it is really beautiful. I live on the island, but I'd like to recommend any and all of the circle routes in the Kootenays. Thank you for that. Thank you. Especially the Hot Springs Circle route. Well, yeah, if you're there, absolutely check out the Hot Springs. Look it up. It is marvelous. Crystal, thank you for that. Great to hear from you as well. Riana, what a pleasure to be speaking with you, and safe travels, okay?
Thanks. Thank you so much, Michelle. I really appreciate it.
That's Riana Ang-Canning, who's a travel blogger, and you can find her page at A Teaspoon of Adventure. And we have chosen a winner randomly, and Cole is the winner of the BC Today prize pack. Congratulations, Cole. And that was Cole calling us from Kelowna. And that is it for us today here on BC Today. Lots of emails coming in on road trips. So I'm going to try and go through them for you. Joanne writes as well from Victoria, we're retired. We wait until the fall to make a road trip to avoid traffic. For us, it's just too busy right now to have a relaxing holiday. We go to Tofino in October, and a couple of times had amazing weather. And my favorite as well was a 5-day trip in the Shuswap Lakes on a houseboat. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your email as well, from Victoria, Joanne. Our email is bctoday@cbc.ca. You can let us know about your favorite road trip memories there too.